What up, fam? Welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I'm Morrow, your storyteller for today. With me, have some more RPG horror stories. My apologies for lack of uploads, or I guess consistent uploads. If it's not been one thing, it's been the other. And unfortunately, you know what? Actually, I'm not gonna talk about it, because at the end of the day, I'm not here to talk about me venting or me talking about my own personal life. I'm here to do some RPG horror stories and to hang out together. So let's go ahead and get some RPG horror stories for today. When the main character dies, the campaign ends. This happened a while ago. We had a little group that always played together in different campaigns with different DMs. Over time, two people kind of fell in love, which given their ages 40 and 20 was a bit weird, but they were both adults, so who's that to care? It just so happened that a 20-year-old wanted to start a campaign with our usual group. All excited, but we quickly noticed a recurring problem. Michael, the 40-year-old, had a character that basically every NPC knew by name. Whether his character met certain NPCs, he and the DM would leave the rest of us sitting in the main voice chat while they continued the conversation in private call. These quick chats regularly lasted for an hour or more. I remember one session where they talked privately for the entire hour before coming back. Just those that had to end the session because they weren't even close to finishing. Okay, I'm gonna step in early and I would tell you I've been in a game where DM actually did that repeatedly. It was a regular occurrence. People were dragged over to a private call so many times in order to have the one-on-one with DM and whatever. Do not do this. Do not do this. Do not ever do this. I don't ever do that thing in my campaign whatsoever. If I have to pull anybody away for something, or I need to let him know something specific, I use the VTT Foundry system. I have a little module on there that allows me to whisper a character directly, or I'll just send them a DM on Discord so that they know exactly something specific that is only for their character. Or if I really need to do something just tell someone verbally, I'll just pull them away for a brief few seconds, but never hour. Hour sounds insane. Do not do that to your players, because that is disrespectful to the rest of your players. What I'm gonna guess wildly, because of the title of the story, is that the 20-year-old DM is basically running a story where Michael, fake name probably, the 40-year-old player's character, is the main character, and they're just trying to make sure that the character is constantly flaunted by every single NPC, and every interaction has to go with that. But do not ever do that. Do not ever just leave people hanging in the other VC while pull somebody else's wall with that. Just don't do that. If it's something that people can just say in private, or something that's going to be on one-on-one, let the other players meta. Just let the other players metagame it and just be part of the story. They want to be involved in this sort of thing. They want to be able to hear what's going on, what's happening. Anyway, let's continue. The worst part was that his character constantly left the party to, quote-unquote, take care of something, which always seemed incredibly suspicious. At one point, we had to visit a city that the character didn't really want to enter. When Michael's character decided to go hunting instead, he didn't want to go either. My character joined him. Everything seemed fine until, out of nowhere, his character's eyes turned blank and he suddenly sprinted away. Tried to keep up, but apparently couldn't. When he returned sometime later, my character confronted him. After giving a few terrible excuses for his strange behavior, and after my character pointed out more and more evidence that something was wrong, he said the magic words, "Sorry, I had to do this. Roll for initiative." Wait, hold on. Wait, the player said he has to do this? The player said to roll for initiative? That is crazy, dude. I've never had a player it's like, DM, roll for initiative. Secrets in TTRPGs also are a bit of a problem for me, mostly because I've been in a game where DM specifically were trying to make the one player that they have a crush on or were in a relationship with, I'm not gonna tell which one, but let's hypothetically assume that DM has the hots for a player, so therefore they want the player to feel extra special for their player character. So therefore they're giving them extra little moments, extra little secrets, extra little private one-on-one Discord calls for an hour or so, perhaps, perchance. Maybe I'm just can very much relate to this specific story in particular. Anyway, if it's to the point where every single time there's a bunch of little secrets in every single session, or every single time you attend anything particular, to the point where it feels like everybody else feeling left out, that I feel like is the problem with the secrets going a little bit too exclusive. I get it. The whole point of secrets is to have something specific that can be revealed to the rest of the party for fun and flavor and drama. drama, because that kind of stuff is fun in role-playing games. But if it's done constantly, every single time, at every turn, you arrive at the town, you see an NPC, everybody's like, hey bud, how's it going? The one player is like, I don't trust him, but they don't tell why they trust him. It's like, okay, well, clearly we don't know anything going on, so why don't you tell us? I can't tell you. My character wouldn't do that because them and DM are in cahoots over some sort of a secret. Or if, let's say, for example, they see something in an ancient forbidden library and they're like, I recognize this, and everybody's like, oh, what is it? And they're like, I can't tell you. Ooh, okay, well, that just means we're all f***ing left out at that point. It's annoying. It's annoying, and genuinely I hate when it comes to using secrets to the point of not providing something fun or drama or twist to the story, but in a sense providing exclusivity and this isolational storytelling, because it makes everybody else in the party feel like they get a massive FOMO and they just feel left out of everything because they literally are left out forcefully by the DM and the player from being engaging with whatever's going on with the player and DM. And in this situation, this session, in this game, you have a player that's specifically in cahoots with DM for whatever kind of stuff they're doing, and the player characters constantly leaving and never communicating anything at all to the rest of the party for whatever reasons whatsoever. That's just going to become annoying and boring, and I think most people are going to be fed up with it. I mean, I got fed up with it specifically. That's why I don't do these sort of things in my games. If there's a secret, it has to be small, but if it's like a massive secret, I make sure everybody else is in on the meta knowledge for that sort of stuff, because otherwise I just don't think it's fair to the rest of the players to be left out of the cool moments that they could be building together, because I was out of those moments where I wish I would have been participated in, but unfortunately because of stupid exclusivities like that, I just can't participate in it. You can't do anything with nothing, dude. You can't do anything with nothing, and I just want to play my TTRPGs with my friends and stuff. And if a DM is trying to keep some sort of secrets, I can't get involved in it. It just sucks. It sucks to be in my position. Anyway, I'm ranting. Let's continue. This was D&D 5e, and I was playing a paladin. I don't remember what he was playing. After about 2 rounds, he was at critical health while still almost at full HP. That's when he apologized the second time, saying he was going serious now. He transformed into a werewolf using a special stat block. While transforming, he even said, "Oh, you really screwed up now." Unfortunate for him, the dice weren't on his side, and it's still being despite the transformation. I was ready to heal him to 1 HP, but suddenly DM, who'd basically spent the entire fight giggling, cut in. Make a constitution save. I was confused, but rolled anyway. I got something like a 24. It still wasn't enough. My character was instantly knocked unconscious. I asked what would happen if I rolled a natural 20, and she simply replied, he probably would have just killed you. What? When my character woke up, he was in Demon Realm, face to face with a big bad evil guy who told him that he should have kept his nose out of things that didn't concern him. Then fade to black. The DM informed me that because time works differently there, my character would not be tortured for 100 years. So he would never oppose a Michael again. I'm just trying to imagine this. Is she saying like oppose Michael as the player or Michael's PC? What are we talking about here? Is it opposing Michael's PC? Also, the guy responding with things like, oh, you really screwed up now. He thinks it cooked. Turn off the stove. You're not cooking. Get out of the kitchen, please. Get out of it. Turn off the stove, please. You ain't cooking anything, Michael. We got back to the party. My character was barely responsive, which I figured made perfect sense given the circumstances. And it just so happened that the rest of the party had also become extremely suspicious of Michael. Everything came to a head during the very next session. I don't remember exactly how it happened, but somehow he made it even more obvious that he had ties to the BBG. The party confronted him, and after the same kind of back and forth he had with my character, he once again said the magic words, "Roll for initiative." He got his ass handed to him while the character simply stood there doing nothing. At the end of the fight, he tried to explain himself. He claimed he never wanted any of this to happen, that he felt sorry for what happened to my character. That prompted my character to finally speak. Don't you think it's a little late for that? Then he dealt the final blow. The DM decided to end the campaign right there. Michael explained the reason behind his character's behavior. Apparently, his sister had been kidnapped by the BBG, forcing him to work with him while secretly trying to bring him down from the inside. After that, the two of them continued playing the campaign by themselves, which probably included role-playing the 100 years of torture in the demon realm. Yeah, They were like that. Okay. Idea, constructive criticism. Maybe if you're trying to work against the BBG, tell the party about it, and then they can work together and everybody can be involved in this whole thing. Perhaps, perchance, not just forcing a PvP for no reason. It just doesn't make sense, dude. It doesn't make sense. Clearly, the DM is trying to make their 40-year-old boyfriend Michael be this great big hero of the story, the main character, literally the main character, the main protagonist of this entire campaign, and everybody else is just playing, I guess, side characters or companions and stuff. And apparently it's okay to just send your character to 100 years worth of torture. What was the point for that? What was the point to try to force this PvP? As a DM, I feel like you shouldn't do that. Also, for Michael to just straight up just out loud, roll for initiative. It's like, oh dude, you're not the DM, shut up. You sound stupid saying that. I can't imagine a player saying that. If a player said that to me, I would unironically just be like, dude, cringe, stop doing that. If you're not the DM, just because it really is cringe. It really is cringe. The guy thinks he's literally the main character because the DM is blowing smoke up their ass because they got involved with the character specifically, you know, because the DM is basically just making the story for Michael and everybody else is just tagging along in Michael's story because I guess the DM just really wants to make sure Michael feels like the most important character. There's nothing wrong with having story arcs, like specifically if you decide to focus on Michael's story arc, that would be kind of cool, but also find a reason, a way for the other players to be involved. Specifically, I'm currently running my Final Fantasy D&D campaign on the side, which I'm still at some point need to put out videos on that because I've been recording every session, but either way, I digress. Whenever there's a story arc happening, like for example, I have a story arc happening about one of the player characters trying to infiltrate into a facility that is held by the Guardian Empire and is trying to basically rescue their family, rescue their tribe members that have been moved over into that place specifically. While the story is mainly focusing on the story arc for this specific character, everybody else has a reason for tagging along and has a reason to get involved because on one hand, they are also involved in everything going on in some capacity, in some way. And just like that was also a matter and a deal for every other little story arcs that I've done so far. What I'm trying to say is basically there's nothing wrong with having a story arc for the one character per, like, you know, for the campaign. There's nothing wrong with having story arcs at all, but to have one single sole player character be the main character and everybody else is just a tag along is really unfair to the rest of the players. But also, it just really cringe the way that Michael just did things. It just cringe, makes my skin crawl. Anyway, let's continue on with the next story for today. No, you're actually not the main characters. My experience with this person, who we'll call Eliza, female 22, started a couple years ago in Curse of Strahd, when I was pretty inexperienced in RPGs. We were relentlessly being beaten to hell, far out of our combat levels, and eventually we were ambushed by wolves. One of our PCs died, but it won at about level 3 or 4 against 8 werewolves. She then added 6 more, not liking the outcome. No-butted our escapes and killed us all. She then made us talk to Lady Death, get 3 life video game style bracelets, and sent us out again. It was frustrating, but I had a lot of history with her. I didn't want to complain. Looking back, I realized I was too scared to. When she ended the campaign because she was uninterested, she enjoyed seeing our characters suffer and die. I should have left, but I didn't know any better. Okay, we're starting off with an insane premise. So your DM loves watching your characters die, and then lets you talk to Lady Death, gives you a 3 lives bracelet just so they can continue sending your characters to die. That is insanely sadistic as hell, dude. That is insanely sadistic. I don't want to kill off the PCs. Like if the dice are just like that, the dice are just like that. But one thing I don't want to do, the one thing I don't try to do is kill off player characters. Like if they die because they did something stupid, that's on them. Or if they die because the dice just roll this way, then that's on them. But I guess that's not really on anybody in that particular, because that's just the dice being dice. I don't go out of my way to try to kill my player characters. I'll put them in dangerous situations, sure, but I try not to kill them. If the player character dies, that sort of kind of ruins the fun for the player, especially if they're not ready for the character to die. I don't know. I'm not really like a vindictive DM. I like to have fun with my friends. I don't want to like punish them specifically. But either way, let's continue. She decided to write her own campaign when she informed us that we weren't the main characters. I thought it could be interesting. It was an adventuring college setting. I played an artificer who has started good relationship with his parents, who has stated had good relationship with his parents. At the time, I was having a lot of difficulty with my parents. Couldn't tell her anything without her threatening to do things I was completely uncomfortable with, such as coming over in the middle of the night or trying to get law enforcement involved when they had no need to be. I became truly afraid of what she would do, how it would affect my and my parents' lives, and agreed to move into an apartment with her because I was scared of what she'd do otherwise. So throughout the rest of the story, I was living with her and unable to remove myself fully. Okay, this is a dangerous situation. Clearly, this person, this Elisa individual is getting too involved into your life, but instead of separating from this person, you decide to move in with this person. That is not a good thing. Okay, this is the mess that you made in the bed, in a sense. I guess you didn't specifically make it, but you chose a specific route. Let's see how this goes. This already sounds really bad, though. The campaign consisted of every superhero and YouTuber an anime character you could think of, just a different outfit, and they were really aggressive and unfriendly. Freaking Spider-Man wouldn't give us the time of day, and our characters basically could only run around doing chores for them in hopes we could eventually progress the plot. She put us in scenarios where we were stuck with an Avengers and Technoblade fighting creatures. Only her level 15 and 20 NPCs were high enough level to fight, or about level 4, and shut down any of our ideas that weren't hitting these swarms of creatures with swords. The combat lasted multiple sessions. Our characters had no stake in all except their lives, and it got to the point where me, another player, not my boyfriend, could go on 15-minute walks outside after our turns and still have another 15 to wait. Okay, pause. This game sounds insanely chaotic. If you were to tell me that somebody's put together a D&D 5e game with all your favorite YouTubers and Minecraft Let's Players and all your favorite Marvel characters, I would immediately nope the fuck out, dude. That sounds like a disaster. I'm sorry. I'm not interested in playing your fan fiction, okay? There's ways to play in a universe where you can be like, I don't know, some sort of like a conversion system or play in a specific universe that you like. But if you were to tell me you're going to include every single thing, including SpongeBob, Roblox, and Marvel Rivals into this, I mean, Marvel Rivals is pretty great, but just Marvel in general, it sounds like a chaotic experience, dude. What else are you going to do? You're going to be exploring the back rooms while the minions from the Crew movie, or the Minions movie, or whatever it's called, I forgot, try to talk to you about a banana or something. It just sounds insane. It sounds crazy. It sounds like a fever dream. You probably should have just said no. But also, it's such a chaotic thing to have turns take so long that you can go a 15-minute walk outside and still come back and the turns is still going on. It sounds like your DM is playing by themselves and you just a captured audience member. This game sounds like hell. Later on, she makes us unscramble 25 words into a poem on the door, slowly absorbing our party members' characters into stone whenever we got it wrong. It took us a session and a half, 8 hours to solve it. I was so upset and frustrated I had to go outside and I couldn't do anything I regretted. I couldn't stand it and I felt so freaking trapped. Eventually, she starts showing our characters more attention. She makes mine an alcoholic, and this new trauma was now the only thing that made him interesting in their lives. She decided to go further. A few months before I almost come... Whoa. IRL? At the time, I was still having issues with... Oh. She decided that my issues were incredibly interesting. Decided to make me relive everything through my character. The issues I had that almost made me... Oh. Commit unaliving into a better lore for my D&D. Okay, no, this is a horrible person. Your DM is a horrible person. You shouldn't have got together and shouldn't have moved in with Elisa individual. Elisa sounds like a piece of shit. It's one thing if, for example, the player wants to explore some sort of trauma. That's one thing. There could be some sort of concessions made for that, right? Maybe something traumatic and stuff. I don't know. Me being fatherless, you know, maybe I would explore that at some point with a character in a bit like less, you know, therapy way, but maybe something I just want to explore in a character. But to use someone else's trauma in such a way and to force it onto your player character just because you've taken something from your own personal hardships and to take someone's thoughts and attempt at self-harm or use that as a story narrative, that is such a scummy thing to do. That's a piece of shit scummy thing to do. Elisa is a piece of shit individual. Absolutely awful. Another player, I'll call him Drake, male 22, was constantly praising the ground the DM walked on to a weird extent, and he continuously started picking fights with my character. Elisa eventually told me that he was doing this to get me to pay better attention and demanded I apologize to him. He antagonized me for months, but I did because I was afraid of Elisa, and she wasn't just mistreating me, but my cat. We were on lease. I was broke and still thought she was my friend. As soon as I apologized, he treated me with such false niceties, I realized how badly he and Elisa were walking over me. I was now dating my boyfriend, another player, and thought the way he genuinely treated me well, I realized how bad the spot I was in, and I left the campaign. Elisa and my relationship crumbled from there, but now I play in a campaign while my boyfriend is the DM. And treats us all so kindly as well. I'm very happy now, but I'm happy I never have to relieve Elisa's campaign. Hopefully, you no longer have to even live with Elisa as well, and you moved out from whatever place you're in and stay with somebody else. Listen, I get it, especially in this economy right now. Moving on, find a different place right now to live is going to be tough, especially when money is really tight. Completely understandable, but this is not okay for Elisa to do this to you, and as a person or as an individual to not respect your boundaries in such a horrific way, to use your own trauma in order because to find it interesting. Self-harm is not interesting. It is a really sensitive thing that you probably should be handling with at least some kind of proper decorum, at least some sort of sensibilities. This of a DM, Elisa, is just taking your self-harm attempt and it's like, huh, that'd be great for a story. Let me enforce it onto your character. What a piece of shit person. What a piece of shit individual. Absolutely awful, dude. This is a kind of DM that only cares about what they want to do and their precious story. This is a DM that basically sees themselves and what they do as the main character. You guys aren't the main character. You just captured audience members. In your situation, specifically captured because you can't go anywhere. They're your roommate. You live with them and everything. So you're literally a captured audience member. They just want to run their cool game with their cool DNPCs and everything. And people that aren't paying attention to the story get punished. And people that lord the ground to walk over, like Drake did earlier, get rewarded. And apparently I use as accomplices in order to bully somebody else. Elisa is just a bully. Elisa as an individual is a big fucking bully, and they really should not be DMing. I hope you're in a better place. I hope you're away from this Elisa individual. They sound absolutely fucking atrocious. And with that, that's going to be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching, and thanks so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG Horror Stories ever goes down, or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales Tomorrow. Bye-bye.